The stars were quiet. A human warship, dark and massive, floated in orbit above the broken surface of Virex 7, a planet that had seen too many battles. Fires still burned across its continents. Alien ships, damaged and silent, drifted like dead insects in space. But the human ship didn't fire, didn't move, just watched. For 48 hours, the entire galaxy held its breath. No new orders came. No missiles launched. No warnings. The human fleet had surrounded 5 key planets, former strongholds of alien empires, and yet not a single human pulled the trigger. Across communication channels, thousands of alien voices asked the same question. Why are the humans waiting? The war had ended in silence, not with peace treaties or surrender. It had just stopped. On the bridge of the human flagship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Reyna Voss stood in silence, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy. Red markers showed systems that had betrayed Earth, blue showed allies now extinct, and white. Those were the ones that had stayed neutral, watching from a distance. She didn't speak. No one on the bridge did. She had received one final order from Earth's command before the silence began. It contained only 6 words. Hold position. Await the final signal. The crew didn't question. They knew what was at stake. The galaxy had broken peace 3 times. 3 galactic councils had tried to bring unity, and 3 times humanity had offered help, pre-building planets, providing medicine, sharing technology. But each time, someone had used that kindness as a weapon, bombed Earth's embassies, poisoned their envoys, killed aid workers. The last betrayal had been the worst. An alliance of 7 alien races had invited humanity to join a new peace treaty. A grand event was held on the moon of Narcissus 4. Delegates from Earth arrived with open hands. They never came back. The entire moon had been turned into a trap. All human envoys were vaporized. The footage was sent back to Earth along with a single message: we will never kneel. They didn't expect what came next. Humanity didn't respond with words. It responded with silence. Entire fleets moved. Colonies vanished. Satellites went dark. Then, one by one, the alien warships began to fall. Not with firepower, but with precision strike shields, overloaded, weapons disabled, crews knocked unconscious. Humanity didn't kill. It just stopped its enemies from fighting, and now it's nothing. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of planets, people waited. Alien leaders sat in bunkers, arguing over what Earth's silence meant. Some thought it was mercy. Others feared it was the calm before extinction. But deep down, they all remembered the stories. Earth had always given warnings before. Now it gave none. In a hidden chamber on Earth's moon, it's known only to the highest-ranking humans. The true purpose of the silence was unfolding. The verdict protocol. It was ancient. Older than Earth's entry into the galactic stage. A secret, left behind by the precursors, the first intelligent race, the ones who vanished long ago. They had built a rule: if the galaxy ever fell into chaos again, one species would be chosen to decide its fate. The precursors had watched from afar, studied every species, and they had chosen Earth. Not because of power, not because of technology, but because of humanity's stubbornness, their refusal to die, their endless ability to adapt, to suffer and still help others. Now, Earth was the judge. Admiral Voss finally spoke. Her voice was calm, heavy, signaled the envoy. It's time. Far from the battlefields, a sleek human diplomatic ship activated its engines. It carried no weapons, only a single passenger, Envoy Kale Darn. He had no rank, no armor, and no backup. Only one message to deliver. When he arrived at the ruins of the last Galactic Council station, orbiting a shattered moon, dozens of alien ships scanned him. None fired. The war was over. But they were afraid. Kale stepped onto the council floor. Dust and ash covered the once golden walls. Burn marks showed where leaders had died trying to build unity. He stood in the center and activated an old projector. It showed one sentence, burned into every screen: Peace was your last chance. Then Kale spoke. His voice echoed through every ship, every planet, every screen across the stars. Humanity is no longer asking. We are deciding. What comes next will be shaped by your actions or your silence. He stepped back, said no more. In that moment, the galaxy knew something had changed. It wasn't about war anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about judgment. And humanity, the once laughed at death worlders, now held the scale. The stars remained quiet. But the fear and the silence was louder than any weapon. The room was cold and dark. Kale Darn stood alone at the center of the ruined council hall. Around him, broken chairs and shattered banners told the story of a failed galaxy. Once, this was a place of peace. Now, it was only ash and silence. But Kale didn't come for peace. He came for answers. He placed a small black case on the floor. The aliens watching through hidden cameras leaned closer. They had seen human weapons before, but this looked different. The case clicked open. Inside was an ancient scroll. Its edges were golden. Symbols moved across its surface like water, glowing softly in the dark. The room's lights flickered, reacting to its energy. This was not human technology. It was older, much older. Kale began to read. This is the accord of the first ones. The last rule. The final answer. The feed was being broadcast across the galaxy now. Billions were watching. Soldiers, civilians, leaders, criminals, everyone who had once ignored Earth now held their breath. Kale continued. This document was written by the precursors, the ones who built the stars. They knew peace would break. They saw war coming. So they created a final protocol. He looked up. His eyes were calm, focused. If the galaxy broke peace 3 times, one species would be chosen to judge the rest. No one moved. Kale placed the scroll on the broken table in front of him. The choice was made 2 centuries ago. Left signs. Hidden tests. Watching every race. Only one passed. A symbol appeared on the scrolls, simple and familiar Earth. 1,000 voices across the galaxy shouted in anger, in fear. Some denied it, others wept. No, but none could stop the truth from spreading. Humanity had not claimed power, it had been given. The right to decide what came after peace. In the command room of the Zerati Empire, the high strategist slammed his clawed hand on the table. They're lying. This is human trickery. But his generals said nothing. They'd seen the scroll. They had seen the symbol, and they knew something the strategist refused to say aloud. The humans had never lied. Not once, not even when they were weak. Back on the ruined council station, Kale's message continued. We tried peace. We offered help. We rebuilt cities. We shared cures. We saved planets that once tried to destroy us. He tapped the scroll again. A second set of images appeared, humans delivering food to alien worlds, fighting plagues, lifting collapsed structures by hand. One image showed a human child carrying an injured alien on his back. We gave the galaxy a chance. The screen turned black for a moment. Then new images appeared. Explosions, betrayals, human embassies burning, aid ships targeted, treaties broken, and finally, the massacre on Narcissus 4. The moment the galaxy chose war over peace. Kale's voice lowered. We will not seek revenge, but we will not forget. In orbit above a planet called Triessa, a human ship released a signal. It was a simple code. One long tone, like a deep bell in the void. That tone echoed in hundreds of places at once. Signal had been sent. The verdict. Protocol had begun. Kale finished his message. You have 1 cycle to respond, 1 cycle to explain, to change, to act. We are watching. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the scroll on the ashes of the old world, far away in the human fleet. Admiral Voss watched the transmission end. A junior officer whispered, Do you think they'll listen? Voss didn't answer right away. They've always listened, she said. just never fast enough. The precursors had left humanity with one terrible gift. Choice.Earth would not burn the galaxy, but Earth would not save it either. That choice now belonged to those who had once mocked Earth. Once called humans weak, primitive, emotional now, they would prove who they truly were, and humanity would judge not by words, but by actions. In the days that followed, fear spread faster than fire. Some species began to beg for meetings. Others started hiding fleets. A few tried to erase their past crimes from history. But the humans remembered everything. They had records, proof, names, and they weren't coming with weapons. They were coming with questions, simple ones. Did you help others? Did you keep your promises? Did you betray the hand that saved you? Because now the time of mercy was over, the time of judgment had begun. The skies above Sorrow Prime were filled with ships. They came in silence, sold, battered, and shaking with fear. No weapons, no shields, only the flags of surrender painted across their hulls. These were the last survivors of the once proud galactic council. Now, they arrived like children caught in a storm. Each ship carried a leader. Some were rulers of empires. Some were warlords. A few were diplomats. All had one thing in common: they had broken peace. And now, they had come to beg the humans for mercy. But no one was sure if humans would listen. The human delegation ship hovered above the quiet moon of Etris, the place chosen for this final gathering. A single message had been sent to all factions. You may speak. We may listen. No promises, no threats, just a cold offer. Inside the great meeting dome, the air was tense. The walls, once filled with banners of unity, were now plain and colorless. Seats were placed in a wide circle. At the center sat a single human Kale Darn, the same envoy from the last broadcast. He said nothing. The first to speak was the Tharnok, matriarch. Her voice trembled. We regret what was done, our people. We were misled. Let us fix our mistake. Kale didn't reply, only watched. Next came the Vorkon warlord. We feared Earth, so we struck first. It was survival, not cruelty. You must understand that. Still, silence from the human. One by one, the leaders stood and gave excuses, apologies, half-truths. Some tried to offer trade, others cried, few yelled. None received an answer, until a small voice broke the room. It came from a corner, where junior delegates and messengers were seated. A child no older than 10 human years stood nervously. Her skin was pale green, her eyes bright. She belonged to the Relary, a race once known for mocking humans openly. They had published jokes, memes, and songs about Earth's backward ways. But this child spoke with no fear, only honesty. My name is Alry, she said softly. My parents told me humans were monsters, but last year I got sick. Human doctors, they saved me, gave me medicine, for free. The room froze. Alry looked around and asked if humans were monsters. Why did they help me? No one had an answer. Kale looked at the child. For the first time in days, his face changed. Just slightly. A breath. A blink, then he stood. You asked the right question, he said. He stepped into the center of the room. Voice calm, steady. You all speak of regret, of mistakes. But how many of you helped the week after the war ended? How many sent food, medicine, or hope to the worlds you destroyed? Silence. He turned slowly, eyes locking with each leader. You didn't lose this galaxy because of human weapons. You lost it because when peace came, you chose silence. He paused, then added, and now, so do we. Kale stepped back and left the room. Outside, high above the moon, hidden beyond visual range, a network of human AI drones recorded every word, every face, every emotional signal. They weren't just listening, they were judging, far away. In Earth's deep orbital command station, Admiral Voss received the transcript. Any honesty? She asked. Her advisor replied, only from a child. Voss nodded once, noted. Back in the dome, panic began to grow. The delegates argued. Some blamed humans for playing God. Others turned on each other. Old rivalries lit up like old wounds. But a few sat quietly. They understood something now. The humans weren't here to negotiate. They were here to observe and act only if necessary. Outside the dome, Kay, an alien diplomat, ran after Kale. She was from the Shinari people, once peaceful, later turned violent during the Third Betrayal War. "Wait," she called. "Please, I've seen what your people can do. I know we don't deserve another chance, but is there a way?" Kale turned slowly. His voice was low. "You want a path?" She nodded. "Then walk it. Not here. Not with words. Go home. Help those you broke. Help those you left behind. Maybe, just maybe, we'll be watching when it matters." He walked away again, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Across the galaxy, that moment played on millions of screens. And a question spread, louder than war. Are we being tested? The answer was yes, but not by trials or battles. By action, by choice, by the quiet things, done when no one was watching, except the humans who now watched everything, in the shadows of forgotten moons, in the ruins of fallen empires. The cries of children, humanity was listening, and they were waiting to see who would finally speak the truth, not in a room, not on a screen, but in how they lived. The Council of the Silent Worlds had begun, and their silence would decide the future. The air was heavy with dust. Colonel Yolan Reeves stepped off the dropship and looked around. He was back on Keller 9, once a proud colony. Now nothing but ash, broken walls, and old bones. Long ago, this place had been built by humans for the Xantari species. Earth engineers had landed here first, building hospitals, clean water systems, and schools. Keller 9 was meant to be a symbol of peace, but that peace hadn't lasted. The Xantari had turned on their builders. On the night called the Dark Silence, every human worker was killed, their bodies buried in the same soil they had farmed to feed alien mouths. Now, years later, humanity had returned, but they brought no weapons, just Reeve, a war veteran, quiet and tired, carrying only a scanner and a worn data tablet. He walked past the ruins. Human flags were still painted on the walls, faded, cracked. One building still had the old Earth Aid symbol, two open hands cradling a planet. It was sprayed over with red paint. Reeve entered the main square. His boots crunched over dried glass and rusted metal. The scanner beeped. It had found the graves. He knelt down slowly. 37 humans had died here. Engineers, medics, teachers. Some had never even held a weapon. Their only crime was believing in peace. He placed a small steel cube into the dirt, hummed softly. A hologram rose from it, showing their faces, smiling, hopeful. A final record of those who gave everything to build something better. Back in orbit. Aboard the observation ship Echo Shadow, Admiral Voss watched the feed silently. "Any survivors?" she asked. "None," the officer replied. "Fled the system 3 days ago. Left everything behind." "Did we chase them?" "No, ma'am. They were never the target." Voss nodded. "They never understood. We're not here to conquer." On the ground, Reeve stood again. His voice was picked up by the drone following him. "I was here when it started," he said quietly. "Watched kids play in the sun. Shared meals with people who didn't speak my language but shared my hope." He looked around. "I thought we were finally building something good." His hand touched the cracked Earth Aid symbol. Then one night someone whispered that humans were getting too much power, that we couldn't be trusted, and by morning peace was gone. His face didn't show anger, just loss, just memory. He placed his data tablet on the ground. It uploaded the names of the dead into Earth's memorial network. But that wasn't the mission. Reeve's real task had just begun. He activated a new drone, black, silent, and shaped like a winged eye. It shot into the sky, linking with hundreds more across the system. Their goal was simple: scan every part of the planet, record every name, every weapon, every signal, and especially find the lies back on Earth. in the Grand Archive beneath. The surface of New Geneva, a massive map, was growing. Every betrayal, every world that had asked for help and then turned its blade back toward Earth. But there was something more. Some worlds hadn't betrayed. Some had tried to protect their human builders. Some alien civilians had hidden Earth engineers in basements, helped them escape, even died to shield them from soldiers. Those names were being marked too, not for punishment, but for something else. Recognition. Reeve left the square and entered a building, still mostly standing. Inside he found drawings on the wall made by children. Some showed stars. One showed a human and a Zentari holding hands. Another showed fire. He scanned them all outside. The wind began to pick up. A storm was coming. Dust swirled around Reeve as he returned to his ship. He looked back one last time. This was a good place, he whispered, and then he left. In the following days, similar missions were launched across 100 systems. Veterans, historians, survivors, each sent to record not just destruction, but evidence, proof of who humanity had tried to be, and who had tried to kill that dream. The galaxy watched, confused. Why didn't the humans attack? Why didn't they send fleets? Because humanity didn't need to. They already had everything they required. The truth. And when judgment came, it would not be with fire, but with memory. Every scar buried, every name remembered, every action counted, for the galaxy had forgotten what peace cost. But humanity hadn't, and now, neither would anyone else. The slaver ship Bloodspire entered orbit, expecting silence. For years, the slavers had controlled this world. Darnath 3. The mines below were deep and dangerous, filled with toxic gas. Generations of captured workers had been forced to live and die underground while their masters grew rich. Most of the workers were from small, broken species, too weak to fight, too scattered to organize. They had no weapons, no fleets, no voice. But today, something had changed. Captain Varix, the slaver commander, sat in his dark control chair, frowning. "Why are there no signals?" he asked. His crew looked nervous. No patrols, no beacons, no slave tags, nothing. They scanned again. No reply, no fear, just silence. The Bloodspire landed near the main refinery. Ramps lowered with a hiss of steam. Varix and his guards stepped out, weapons ready, but the gates were open. Inside, no slaves were running, no overseers barking orders. Instead, a long line of figures stood waiting. Men, women, children, all holding weapons. Military rifles. Not plasma launchers, just old tools. Mining drills, welding torches, homemade blades. They didn't run, they didn't speak. They just stared. One woman stepped forward. Her skin was pale blue, her arms scarred from years in the mines. She looked Varix in the eye. "We're not slaves anymore." Varix laughed until he saw the symbol on her shirt. 2 open hands, cradling a planet. Earth's symbol. He raised his weapon. She didn't flinch. Dozens more stepped forward. They all wore the same small patch. Earth hadn't sent armies. It had sent hope weeks ago. Human dropships had landed in secret. No soldiers, no bombs, just crates of food, water, medicine, and something far more powerful. Knowledge. They trained the people. Showed them how to disable the control towers, how to disrupt the slaver chains, how to build defenses. Then the humans had left not to lead, but to let them choose. And they had chosen. Today they stood as free people, not because humans told them to, but because humans reminded them what freedom looked like. Vorix tried to give orders, but his comms were jammed. A low sound filled the air above the sky. One human recon ship hovered, quiet and still. It didn't fire. It didn't speak, it just watched. Every slaver guard dropped their weapons one by one, not because they were told, but because they realized something. No one feared them anymore. They were outnumbered, outwilled, out of time. Back on the human observation ship, Dawn's vigil. Commander Lin stared at the feed. They didn't even need us, the young officer said, shocked. Lin nodded. That was the plan. From across the galaxy, reports poured in. On Arvala 6, the slave pits were empty. On Norowan Station, the cages were broken. On Talvek Prime, old prisoners now sat at the governor's chair. And everywhere was the mark of Earth, sometimes scratched into metal, sometimes painted in blood, and sometimes just whispered between survivors. The humans came. They helped. Then they left. No demands, no rule, just the spark. One galactic ambassador watching the events whispered to her aide, "Is this their punishment?" The aide shook his head. "No, this is their mirror." And the galaxy stared. At itself for the first time. For centuries, many had enslaved the weak. Called it tradition, called it economy. Some even called it peace. But now the victims stood, and they had help. Not conquerors, but reminders. Humanity hadn't just judged. They had given a choice. Fix what you broke. Free who you chained. Clean what you poisoned. And now the galaxy had responded. Some with violence, but many with change. Across dozens of worlds, the weak began to rise. The powerful began to panic. And through it all, the human fleet never moved. They only watched, recording, tracking, waiting on Darna 3. The freed people carried the slavers into the mines. This time the roles were reversed. No executions. No torture, just a choice. "You made us dig for years," the woman told Varix. "Now it's your turn," he screamed, but no one listened, not even the sky far above. The human ship began to move again. The mission was complete as it vanished. Into the stars, the message spread. This was your chance. What you do next decides if there's a future. Back on Earth, Admiral Voss read the reports. One line caught her eye: over 30 slave systems have broken free. No human troops deployed. Locals took control, morale rising. Resistance growing. She smiled faintly. Let them watch. Let them change. We gave them the truth. Now let's see what they do with it. For now, Earth would not fire a single shot. But everyone knew humanity was everywhere. Not in ships, but in ideas. And sometimes that was the deadliest weapon of all. Across the stars, every screen went dark. Then, without warning, a signal broke through the silence. It wasn't from a military channel. It wasn't from Earth's official network. It came from everywhere. Once pirate relays, old satellites, civilian broadcasts, no one could trace it. A simple black screen. Then 3 words appeared. The test begins. No logo, no sound. There's no warning. Just those words burned into the minds of every living thing. With a screen in the control room of the Zalorian assembly, ministers stood frozen. One turned to the others. Was that human? No one answered. They all knew the truth. Only Earth could reach that deep into every corner of the galaxy without leaving a trace at first. Many thought it was a threat, but then came the second message, played a few minutes later. This time wasn't text. It was a voice, calm, human, unfamiliar, neither male nor female. We have watched. We have listened. We have recorded. The voice paused. You have 30 days. Panic spread like fire. 30 days for what? Governments scrambled to decode the signal, but they didn't need to. The voice explained everything. Fix what you broke. Free who you enslaved. Clean what you poisoned. Have 30 days to prove your worth, not to us, but to yourselves. And then silence again. But it wasn't empty. It was louder than war. In the chambers of the Old Graven Syndicate, one of the richest criminal families in the galaxy, the elders gathered in fear. They're bluffing, said one. They won't act. But the youngest among them pulled up the latest feeds. World after world, slaver planets overthrown. Corrupt systems exposed, weapons depots found and destroyed, all without a single human soldier landing. The galaxy was already reacting to the test, but it wasn't clear who was behind the changes. On the ice world of Mary's 4, Entire black markets vanished overnight. The locals said a storm came, one that hacked systems, burned documents, and left behind only one message. Scratched into the walls, we are watching. On the ocean planet Velen, factories once dumping waste into the sea were found disabled. Engineers discovered their machines had been melted from the inside. No alarms had been triggered. No one had seen it happen, and above every ruined facility, satellites now floated, marked with Earth's symbol. Not a flag of conquest, just a reminder. Back on Earth, in the core intelligence lab. A council of human strategists monitored the responses. Dozens of worlds had already begun changing. Some quickly, almost desperately. Freeing prisoners, issuing public apologies, disbanding armies. Others resisted. They tried to fight back. But every time they struck, their weapons failed. Ships powered down. Missiles detonated before launch. Leaders vanished. No bodies were found. Just empty chairs. And the message failed. Admiral Voss stood in silence, watching the map. "Report," she said. An AI voice replied, 37 systems have begun internal reforms. 19 still refuse. 6 are broadcasting false progress, but we see them all. Voss nodded. The ones who ask for help? The AI showed a list. Planets begging for guidance. Some small, some powerful, all afraid. Send advisors, Voss said. Unarmed. Observers only. Let them decide what kind of future they want. Across the galaxy, change moved like wind. In some places, people marched in the streets, not in protest, but in purpose. Rebuilding. Cleaning. Remembering what peace once meant. On a refugee station called Solus Ring, a group of alien children gathered around an old human traveler. "Is Earth going to save us?" one of them asked. The human smiled gently. "No, you're going to save yourselves." "But what if we fail?" He leaned closer. "Then we will remember who tried and who didn't." The message was clear now. Humanity wasn't offering mercy. They were offering clarity. They weren't saying change or die. They were saying this is who you are, and letting the galaxy decide what came. Next, some species began to understand the real test. It wasn't survival, it was truth. What you did when no one told you what to do. What you chose when no one was watching, except the silent eyes of Earth, back. On Mary's 4, a child found an old camera drone buried in the snow. She looked into it and whispered, "Are we doing it right?" Thousands of light years away, a technician in Earth's observation center saw the feed. He smiled and typed a single note into her planet's profile. "They're trying." Sometimes that was enough. But the countdown had begun. 30 days, no. Judges, no court, just the truth. And when it ended, humanity would not punish. They would reveal who saved, who helped, who stood still, and who ran. Because this was no longer about war, it was about worth. And in the end, every star would be measured. The countdown reached 0. 30 days were over. No ships arrived, no armies landed, no threats followed. Just silence. But it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes before something big, something final. Across the galaxy, people stared at the sky. Some held their breath, some held weapons, some held each other. And then, one by one, the stars began to blink. Not real stars, but signals. From Earth, every planet that had been part of the test received one, the results. But they didn't come as words, they came as mirrors. Literal mirror-like drones hovered over each major city, station, and colony. They didn't speak, they didn't attack, they just floated and displayed images. Not from Earth, but from each planet's own. Past 30 days, the mirrors showed hidden crimes, torture chambers that had been reopened after the inspections left, fields poisoned to crush rebellion, peaceful leaders assassinated in secret, but they also showed the good, a child breaking their own chains, then freeing others, former warlord kneeling to apologize, soldier refusing to fire, even when ordered. No one could hide anymore, not behind propaganda, not behind flags, not behind fear. Everything was shown. To everyone, the truth was no longer a secret. On the planet Garul Prime, the emperor who claimed to reform his rule watched in horror as the mirror showed his private vault filled with stolen food while his people starved. Within an hour, his own guards dragged him away. On the moon world Saren, where an underground resistance had refused to believe humans cared, the mirror showed a scene, a human drone silently shielding a group of orphans from falling debris during a storm. The resistance wept. Not because Earth had saved them, but because they were worth saving. Everywhere. Change happened faster than it ever had in history, not because of fear, but because of exposure. The galaxy was no longer a map of borders and empires. It was a map of decisions, and Earth watched every single one. Back on Earth, inside the Terran High Command, Admiral Voss received the full report. Transmission complete, the AI said. All planetary mirrors deployed. Total exposure, 99.3%. Voss nodded. And their reactions, still coming in? Some are changing, some are resisting, but all are watching. Voss walked to the wide glass window. Beyond it, the stars looked calm. Then we've done our part. A younger officer beside her hesitated. Ma'am, are we really leaving it up to them? Voss turned, her voice steady. That was the point. Peace was never something we could give them, only a mirror. And those who keep failing? Voss looked out again. They'll destroy themselves. They'll always do. And it was true. Some worlds refused to change. They launched weapons at the mirrors. But the mirrors didn't fight back. They just recorded and transmitted to every nearby world, revealing who attacked and why. Suddenly, alliances shifted. Planets that once hated each other united not in war, but in shame. They realized Earth wasn't the enemy. Lies were, greed was, fear was, and Earth had simply taken all those things and made them visible. Soon, other species joined the effort, voluntarily. ZLOR-IAN scientists helped terraform ruined planets. Graven mercenaries turned into peacekeepers. Even pirates offered their ships not for gold, but to protect refugee fleets. Earth never told them to. But the mirror had changed something deeper than laws. It had awakened a question. In every mind, what will they see when they look at us? That question became more powerful than any fleet. Back on the refugee station's solace ring, the same group of children gathered under the floating mirror. One of them looked up and whispered, "Are they watching?" "Wuss right now." An old human who had been teaching them smiled. "Not anymore." The child blinked. "Why not?" "'Cause now," the human said, "you're watching yourselves." That night, across the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, there was peace, not forced, not fragile, not perfect, but real. Because now peace wasn't something given, it was something earned. And Earth, the once feared death world, had done the unthinkable. They had ended 1,000 years of war. Not with weapons, not with invasions, but with truth. And now, the galaxy would never be the same again. But one last message remained, in a hidden chamber deep beneath Earth's surface. A signal blinked, one that had not yet been sent. Voss entered. Alone, she read the words on the screen. Phase 2. If they fall again. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to, because humanity would have given the galaxy a chance. Just one. And if that wasn't enough, humanity had already decided. What came next? The screen went dark.